I turn to Mari. So last time we went with A at this the branching decision point, and I feel like maybe that led us down the path to the bad ending. So let's maybe try B here and see what happens. So B is, come to think of it, Mikimoto-san hasn't come to breakfast either, has he? Yeah, now that you mention it, he's not here. Maybe he just didn't feel like eating. I wondered whether it was possible for someone that was under suspicion for murder to lose their appetite. Suddenly, I realized something. Mikimoto-san was the only one amongst us that had arrived on the island via a different method than the rest of us. Mari, why don't we go to the harbour? The harbour? Why? I'll explain later. Quickly. As we passed through the central garden, Mari turned to ask me, "Why are you in such a hurry?" Well, it's just that if Mikimoto-san is the murderer, he'd be able to run away on the cruiser. Come on, let's hurry. I grabbed Mari's hand and we ran down the dried white path. Just what do you think you're doing? I saw Mikimoto-san as he was walking towards the cruise ship. That's not a cruise ship, that's like a speedboat. I yelled towards Mikimoto-san as he walked towards the speedboat. Hey! Mikimoto-san turned around to face us. He had a sly smile on his face. You're not trying to run away, Mikimoto-san, are you? I knew it. It was you, wasn't it? I found myself forming these words as I was speaking to him. Me? The killer? For a moment, Mikimoto-san had a strange expression on his face. But then it just looked like he thought I was stupid. No, I didn't kill anybody. What kind of reason would I have to kill such an idiot like that, anyway? So just what are you doing here exactly? Oh, I just thought I'd check whether the boat had sunk during the storm last night. But if I'm being honest, I just don't really like the idea of being on an island where a murderer is skulking around. So I just thought I'd make preparations in case I need to run away or anything. But it looks like I won't be doing that after all. Why's that? Mikimoto-san didn't even try to answer my question, and instead pulled out a pair of binoculars. A kind of high-spec binoculars that someone who spends a lot of time outdoors might have, and gave them to Mari. Now, don't be surprised, but I want you to look over there. Turning towards the direction that Mikimoto-san was pointing in, Mari put the binoculars to her face. Huh. That's a little strange. Why would there be a rocky area like that out there? I took the binoculars from Mari and took a look. Far off out into the distance in the ocean, around the shape of the sea. Around the shape where the sea cut off. So I guess where the space is for like the letter C, I guess. Around in that direction, where the island faced down onto the sea. Around there, one could see an outcrop of rocks that had risen from the bottom of the ocean. But if there was some kind of rocky outcrop like that when we came on the boat, there would have been no way for us to get past it. As Mari was speaking, Mikimoto-san started nodding. His face was white as a sheet. That's exactly right. This rocky outcrop goes for quite a distance, both to the left and to the right. I can't believe we didn't get caught on it. As we looked out upon the rocky outcrop, we could see it acted as a kind of a reef in the ocean, appearing and then disappearing. The sea level has kind of fallen a little bit around there, Mikimoto-san said. I couldn't believe it. It turns out this island wasn't a half moon shape. It was circular. Duh. Has this got something to do with the tide? I don't know. I have no idea, but what we can say is we're trapped on this island. At least until the tide comes in, or goes out. The tide comes in once more, and the sea level rises. We're trapped until that happens. I exchanged a glance with Marty. We should go back to the mansion. We need to tell everyone about this. When I opened the door into the lobby of the mansion, I felt a strange kind of atmosphere, the likes of which I hadn't felt before. I heard the sound of one of the women crying from far off. It wasn't just a single woman either. It was like a group of women crying together. We headed towards the sound of the crying. In front of the empty room that was next to the bathroom, Midori-san and the two office ladies stood crying. Toshio-san was trying to cheer Midori-san up, but Toshio-san had lost the color from his face as well. Did something happen? I asked. Toshio-san was silent and simply nodded his head in the direction of the room. We looked into the room. There was Natsumi-san, face up on the ground. Her face had almost blackened, changed into a strange color, and her tongue was protruding from her mouth, almost like a knife. Around her neck was a fox scarf. A fox fur scarf, perhaps. It was the same scarf that she'd shown to everyone only yesterday. From just below the scarf, there was a purple-coloured bruise, maybe? A purple-coloured bruise. It seemed like she'd been strangled with the scarf. There was a wound on her right wrist as well. It looked pretty deep. You could see all the way through to the bone. It seemed like whoever had done this had tried to cut the hand off and failed. Toru! Mari suddenly tugged hard at my sleeves. And suddenly I realized. Mari leant in to whisper into my ear. The children's song. So here we have the second verse, I think, of the island's old children's folk song. This follows the same structure as the one that was referenced for Shintaro, the Masako-san's death. This one starts, so it's Sokomushimura, this village. And this is about the character that uses this word Jorogumo, which if you kind of like literally spell it out, it's the kanji is like woman and then like spider kind of thing. But I think there is like a spider that's actually called this. Yeah, so it's an orb weaving spider, I think, or like a wasp spider. Yeah. So it could directly be referencing that that spider. But if you kind of look into it a little bit further, if you split this kind of Jorogumo word into two, the first two characters, if you put them together, it means prostitute. And Joro is like kind of like a, you know, I don't know, I think it's derogatory. It's not the most polite term to use for a prostitute, but it means prostitute, and the second kind of kanji word is spider. So there could be a few kind of latent meanings in that. So this Jorogumo, this wasp spider or prostitute spider, is crying, saying, "I hate it, I hate it." And if you ask the baby fox what they hate, it's that mischievous weasel, the Itachi, called Funoshin, cut her hands and her feet. I think actually her hands and her feet were cut, so she can't walk anymore, and that's what she hates. That's why she's crying. So that's what the content of this verse is about. So here, like you can kind of see in the text, like the white text and also this kind of like pink purplish text. I think that's kind of like, you know, this is the important parts. Like this is what you got to pay attention to. So it's highlighting the name of the character, which is this spider thing, the wasp spider, Jorogumo. Then the next part is like this baby fox part. It uses the word kitsune, which is the word for fox. And like, so it has kitsune, and then after that it has ko. And ko, like at the end of like an animal name or whatever, usually means like a baby of that animal kind of thing. So like, although like I guess like most of the time, like if you're just talking normally, like things like I don't know, like ko ushi and that kind of thing, baby cow, you put the ko before the name of the animal. So it's kind of weird that like it's kitsune and then ko after it in this song. I don't know whether that's just kind of like an inflection because it's a song, or like, you know, there's something going on there. But I guess the key where there's fox, in any case. It's highlighted. And then Teashi mogarete. That's so hands and feet were gouged out. I think that word is mogareru. This is kind of a strange choice of words as well, but yeah. So it uses it. What it says, like the wound that's been inflicted on hands and feet, is like isn't really what you'd usually use for a wound like that. Like it's like mogu means like kind of like if you're picking apples from a tree, you would use the word mogu, or like plucking something from somewhere. So it's kind of weird because you can't really pluck hands and feet off a person, so it's sort of strange. But I guess it's just a kind of a it's got that kind of like imagery, but it means wound essentially, I guess. So their hands and feet have been wounded or cut, and they can't walk anymore. Yeah. So we got Jorogumo, the character, the kitsune keyword, and the hands and feet being wounded. It's happened again. The fox scarf. And a dead body with bruises around the hands. Wounds on the hands. It was the same as the children's song. Does that mean that this is also that Kamaitachi no, the doing of the Kamaitachi? Is this the curse of the Kamaitachi? The wind of the Kamaitachi, I think? No, there's no way. Whoever did this to Natsumi-san was most definitely a human. Someone amongst us. But why exactly were they killing people, according to this children's song? Kayama-san had keeled over in a corner of the room. His face was bright red and stained with tears. Murakami-san and Kobayashi-san were next to him. It was me that found her, Kobayashi-san said to me. I couldn't relax in my room, so I took a look around the mansion and I saw bloodstains outside this room. I built up the courage to look inside, and this is what I found. Was it locked or not? Yeah, it was locked. Yeah. Huh? Hang on. Was it locked? Okay. What, was the room locked or not? It wasn't locked. When I ran out to get some help, it just so happened that Murakami-san and Kiyo-san were walking past. Were there any clues to who could have done this? Kobayashi-san shook his head. I only found out like 10 minutes ago. I'm pretty much in the same position as you both. In other words, I don't know anything. We fell silent. We heard the sounds of crying coming in once more through the door. Natsumi! Natsumi, why did you have to die? What am I going to do without you? Kayama-san was hitting the floor with both hands and screaming as loud as he could. There was nothing we could say to comfort him. We were all silent. That's it. I've had enough. I've had enough of this strange place where people are getting killed one after the other. There's no telling what's going to happen to me too. I'm getting off this island. Murakami-san tried to exit the room. Where do you think you're going? Kayama-san, who was still keeled over on the floor, grabbed Murakami-san's arm. I'm not going to let you go. Yeah, that's right. I think I understand what's going on. I think you're the one that did this. Don't be ridiculous. Why would I kill a woman like this? Just what do you mean a woman like this? Kayama-san howled. Natsumi was my angel. As if you could understand something like that. Kayama-san leapt up and lunged at Murakami-san. Calm down, please. Kobayashi-san and I tried to restrain Kayama-san. We don't have any proof that Murakami-san did this. And there's no way he could get off the island anyway. I explained to everyone that the island was actually circular, as simply as I could. Everyone listened to my explanation with their mouths open. At first, nobody really believed me. I kind of guessed that they wouldn't at first. There's no way anyone could believe that an island that had, until only moments before, been a half-moon shape had suddenly become fully circular. Kiyo-san spread a large sheet over Natsumi-san's dead body. Yes, I suppose so. The island is closed off, so there's no way that Mikimoto-san's boat can exit the island. It's quite difficult to sail over the reef and go out into the ocean beyond. Hey! Murakami-san suddenly shouted and walked over to Kiyo-san. Are you trying to tell us that you knew that the island was circular? Well, yes, Kiyo-san said. There's an old legend around here. On the day after the night of the Kamaitachi, once every 50 years, the sea level lowers and the island becomes circular. So it just so happens that everyone is here, everyone is present for this strange phenomenon. It seems as if Kiyo-san was trying to help us be thankful for such a rare event. A long time ago, 100 years ago to be precise, right in the middle of the Meiji era, on the morning following a night of a wild storm, there was a play, an escape play, put on by the prisoners of the jail here. They attempted to escape using a small boat, but they found that the island had turned into a circular shape, and so the only thing they could do was go around in circles. Earlier, just in that previous Where is it? That's right. Yeah, in this text, like it uses this word datsugokugeki, which is like escaping. They use the word for escaping prison. But then at the end of it, they put like the kanji for like a theater play, which is kind of weird. Like, I don't know whether that's just kind of like a way to say jailbreak, or I've never really seen that before. But I think that the way she's speaking seems as if like there actually was an attempted jailbreak that failed. I found myself picturing in the back of my mind prisoners on a small boat attempting to pass over the reef. I imagined guards from the prison chasing them from behind, from the mansion. And those that couldn't escape and were captured were hung up on the towers as an example for the rest of the prisoners. They were hung up on the eastern side, the eastern guard tower, for everyone to see. After that tower started to be called the Tower of Hanged Men. I guess you could also call that maybe the Hanging Tower or Hangman's Tower or something like that. So that was the day that followed the night of the Kamaitachi 100 years ago. The time before last. Kobayashi-san said. That's correct. Having said that, in the evening of that day, the ocean returns to its original level, so everyone will be able to go home this evening. So, please, I beg you, just wait until that happens. Kiyo-san seemed a bit nervous. In any case, let's just get out of this room, Kobayashi-san said. I don't think it's fair to Natsumi-san, with everyone looking on her like this. Kayama-san can stay if he likes, but we should probably leave. Everyone agreed, and leaving Kayama-san in the room, we went outside. Wait. Marty suddenly spoke up. Natsumi-san's right hand. Don't you think there's something a little bit weird about it? It seems like she's grabbing onto something. The cut wound on her wrist was too horrible to look at for very long, so I hadn't noticed, but it did seem like Natsumi-san's right hand was holding onto something. Kayama-san, do you mind? I made sure to ask Kayama-san before I knelt down to open her hand. But perhaps due to rigor mortis, it was hard work trying to even move her fingers. That's no good. They're frozen stiff. I stood up, and Mikibonta-san spoke up. I think it's a little bit early to give up. Why don't we cut her fingers off with like a knife or something? The colour in Kayama-san's face changed. You bastard. You got a lot of nerve saying something like that. You want to cut off one of her fingers? You gotta be kidding. I'm not trying to kid around. I know it's probably pretty gross to cut off one of her fingers, but if that's the only way to find out who did this, don't you want something like that as well? Kayama-san sounded somewhat like a cow as he growled at Mikimoto-san. In any case, we really need to see what's inside her hand. There have been 2 victims now. Perhaps there's a third on the way. I'm not trying to be cool or anything, but I need to find a clue. Anything that can point us in the direction of who might be the third victim. But, you know, cutting a finger is just... Look, we need to stop messing around. This is the second person to die. People are losing their lives. What's losing a finger compared to someone losing their life? I was worried that maybe Kayama-san might lunge at Mikimoto-san again, but all he did was cast his eyes down on the ground. Alright, we'll take a majority vote. At least then everyone might be able to agree. So, who agrees with me? Who thinks we should cut off the fingers? Those that raised their hands were Mikimoto-san, Kobayashi-san, and Murakami-san. Well, I guess this is because it was me that put forth the idea. I'll just go along with whatever happens. A sly smile on his face, Mikimoto-san went to leave the room. Just wait a minute, Kayama-san said. I agree. Kayama-san. I need to know who bears a grudge on Natsumi. And if that's going to lead me in the direction of the culprit, I can part with a finger. Kayama-san had tears in his eyes. Kiyo-san, get us something we can cut the fingers with from the kitchen. Kayama-san asked Kiyo-san to head to the kitchen and made her get a meat cutting knife. I can't watch someone else do it, Kayama-san said, handing the knife to Mikimoto-san. Me? What, you getting cold feet? You're the one that said we need to cut our fingers off. My wife's fingers. You need to take responsibility here. Kayama-san thrust the knife in Mikimoto-san's direction. Mikimoto-san stared at the knife for a while, and eventually said, "Whatever, I'll do it." Mikimoto-san knelt down next to Natsumi-san's body and raised the knife over his shoulder. We have a decision here. We can say wait, or just watch his movements. Just watch what he does. I don't know about cutting the fingers off. It kind of seems weird to me that Mikimoto-san's really keen to see what's inside. It could, like, there's every possibility that, like, that he's the murderer, and because it kind of seems like like a couple of things were bungled. you know, like, so maybe like something he like, you know, planned to murder her, and like in the act, like it didn't go completely according to plan. Maybe she kind of grabbed onto something of his, and like something of his is in her hand, and he knows that, and he needs to kind of like get it out. He can't have anyone see it. So maybe this is kind of all like an act, like the whole thing about like him sort of not wanting to cut the fingers off and that kind of thing could be an act, and like what he's going to do is like cut the fingers off and quickly take out whatever's in the hand and hide it and say like, oh, there's nothing in the hand. I feel like that's a bit of a, you know, a possibility. So have it like with that in mind, like you would want to stop him maybe. I reckon maybe, yeah. So I'm thinking A here. We'll see where this leads us. I'm just gonna maybe like save it first. It's just kind of getting darker and darker, which is, I guess, pretty typical. But at least we made it past that band ending. So I guess that was the right decision there. Yeah. Yeah, we bypassed the band ending last time. Okay, so we'll go with A here. Wait! I said suddenly. Maybe let's just try to open her hand just one more time. And if it still doesn't open, then we can cut her fingers off afterwards. Mikimoto-san wiped the sweat off his forehead. Oh, man, I was all amped up to do it. It sounded like he was a bit relieved that he didn't have to cut Natsumi's fingers off. I called Kobayashi-san, Mikimoto-san, and Toshio-san into the room. And we all tried our hardest to open Natsumi-san's fingers one by one. Prying and prying. Little by little, her fingers started to open. We did it! Mikimoto-san seemed the happiest. What on earth is this? Kobayashi-san took a small manicure bottle from Natsumi-san's palm. It was green in color. It had a strange dark aura about it. I felt like I'd seen it somewhere before. And just as I was searching my thoughts, wait, this isn't Natsumi's, Kayama-san said. There's no makeup furniture in this room. There's no makeup desk, maybe? Makeup. I don't know what you call that. What do you call it? Makeup stand, maybe? There's no makeup stand in this room. So maybe Natsumi-san was killed in a different room and then carried here. Mikimoto-san surmised, looking around the room. Now that he mentioned it, there was no bloodstains on the floor around the room. Everyone seemed to agree with Mikimoto-san's reasoning. Maybe this is her dying message. What do you mean, dying message? Kobayashi-san asked. Dying message is like something that someone who's being murdered attempts to leave behind in order to let other people know who the killer was. Maybe Natsumi-san is trying to let us know who the killer is using this manicure bottle. Well, even if that isn't the case, it's highly likely that this bottle is the property of the murderer, Toshio-san said. In other words, the murderer is a woman. Murakami-san stared hard at the two office ladies, Midori-san and Mari. It goes without saying, but all four of these women tried to avoid looking at Murakami-san's gaze. Does anyone know who this manicure bottle belongs to? Korea-san showed the bottle to all of the women. Mari shook her head, and I was relieved. Keiko-san and Kanako-san looked at each other, and then Keiko-san said, I've seen Midori-san use this before. Kanako-san, trying to look away from Midori-san, followed up by saying, it was kind of an unusual color, so I asked her where she bought it. And it's not me, Midori-san shouted through her tears. It wasn't me. I used that manicure, but there's millions of people around the world that use the same product. We're not talking about the rest of the world. We're just talking about this island. It's kind of a rare manicure color. So it would go without saying that the only person on this island that uses that manicure would be you. Murakami-san said coldly. I knew I shouldn't look too hard at Midori-san, but I found my eyes wandering over to her. I looked at her fingers, and there, on her fingernails, was the deep green color of the manicure. It's really not that rare. Someone just recommended it to me. I really didn't know that it was that unusual. It was you, wasn't it? You killed Natsumi. Kayama-san, standing up, started to head towards Midori-san. You killed Natsumi. I didn't. It wasn't me. Midori-san, who was trying to turn around and run away, was pinned by Kayama-san. Wait, please. Toshio-san attempted to grab Kayama-san by both arms and restrain him. Midori was with me the whole time. And she's not the kind of woman that would kill someone. There must be some misunderstanding. But that manicure bottle. This is unrefutable evidence. Don't be ridiculous. Midori-san stood up and ran off down the corridor. Look, there she goes. She's run off. I knew it. I knew she's the killer. Don't insult my wife. Kayama-san could only stare at Toshio-san, who had just punched him in the face. Stop it, you two, right now. Kobayashi-san tried to get in between them. Come on, Ned, don't hold back. I'm being serious. I'm going to get revenge for what you did to Natsumi. For what she did to Natsumi, rather. I am serious as well. You need to stop calling my wife a murderer. Midori-san returned. In her hands, she was clutching a handbag. My bottle is inside this bag. Look. She reached in and searched inside her bag. But as she was searching, her face gradually turned deep blue. It was obvious then what was going on. But it's not here. What happened to it? I'm sure it was in here. Mizoni-san dropped her bag, fell to the floor crying. It's all an act. You're just acting. Going and getting your bag and trying to show it to the rest of us. We can see right through you. I'm not lying. Please, believe me. Midori-san had both of her hands buried into her face. And nobody tried to support her. Toshio, please, out of all people, you have to believe me. Toshio-san looked for a short while on his wife's face, and then eventually nodded. Midori-san fell at Toshio-san's feet, crying. Toshio-san helped her up after a short while, and they both left. I don't suppose they plan on running away or anything, do they? Kayama-san wore a look of rage as he watched them from behind. It's impossible to leave this island. At least, as long as the island is circular, Kiyo-san said. Out of all people, to think that Midori-san was the killer, Murakami-san said. There's just no telling with people anymore. Well, let's not be too hasty. In any case, Midori-san has an alibi for the first murder. I really don't think it's wise to point the finger at her as the murderer, just because she has a certain type of manicure bottle. Not to mention she doesn't have a motive. What kind of reason would she have to kill people like Masaoka-san and Natsumi-san, both of which she's only met for the first time? Mari said. There's no reasoning behind murder, you know? Perhaps she just wanted to kill somebody. Sometimes that's all the motive people need, Murakami-san said. It almost seemed like he was trying to provoke fear amongst us. Oh, I can't take this anymore, Kaneko-san said, throwing herself down on the floor in the corridor. This island has gone crazy. Nobody here is sane. I'm going home. But they're saying you can't go home, Mugimoto-san said. The boat to the mainland isn't going to arrive for another 7 hours. And as long as the island's in a circular shape, I can't take my boat out of the harbour. We'll swim. All we need to do is just swim off the island, Kaneko-san said, still crying. But it was obvious that she knew that it was impossible as well. We're going back to our room, Keiko-san said suddenly. Neither of us want to be in the same area as a killer. At the very least, if we stay inside our rooms and lock them from the inside, we'll be safe. With that, they left. Now, wait just a second. You were the one that had the earring that was found in front of Masaoka's room, right? Maybe it's you. Maybe you're the one that killed Natsumi. You don't know anything. I saw her, you know. That was all Kaneko-san said as she climbed up the stairs and disappeared onto the next floor. What did she see? We left Kayama-san in the room with Natsumi-san and moved to the waiting room. In order to get a grip on the situation, we decided to talk amongst ourselves. I wonder why the killer chose Natsumi-san of all people. I started the conversation. Maybe they're just killing people at random. If that's the case, maybe we're next. Kobayashi's-san seemed to just be throwing ideas out left, right, and center. You know, to tell the truth, I was suspicious that maybe Kobayashi-san was actually Abiko-san. And to tell the truth, I'm feeling like maybe that actually is the case, now that this has happened. Mikimoto-san was saying. What are you talking about? Murders happened twice, one after the other, on this island. And in both cases, you were the first person to discover the bodies. It's like I was saying earlier. Generally, the first person on the scene is the most likely to be the culprit. You've been reading too many mystery novels. And not to mention that when Masaoka-san was killed, Toru was the first person that was there. I was with Toru when I found him. Okay, so how about this? Maybe you killed Masaoka-san first, and then returned to your room for a bit. Maybe you waited in your room and listened out to what was going on in the corridor. And when you heard one of the doors opened, you went back out into the corridor a little bit later on. And so-called discover the body together with that person. No, there's no way. I'd never do something like Kobayashi-san tried his best to deny the situation, but suddenly, of course, Kiyo-san. He suddenly turned to Kiyo-san, who stood in the corner. I've been trying to ask you, but I keep forgetting. Just what kind of person is this Abiko-san? Huh? Kiyo-san looked a little surprised. Well, to be honest, it's like this. It was clear that Kiyo-san felt anxious about the conversation. What's the matter? Just come out with it. You can prove that I'm not this Abiko-san, right? Mikimoto-san stood up. Kiyo-san started to sweat profusely and looked nervously around the room. Is Abiko-san someone among us? Or is it a different person? Is he here on this island? Or is he somewhere else? Is it a man? Is it a woman? Out of all people, you should know all this. Well, you see, I started to feel a bit sorry for Kiyo-san. Kiyo-san, she's elderly. You don't need to be so harsh asking all these questions. You need to shut up. Mikimoto-san suddenly changed his tone of voice. He looked as if he was about to grab Kiyo-san. Kiyo-san, look, you don't have to be scared. You can just tell us all you know. That's it. Mari tried to calm Kiyo-san down by speaking to her in a nicer voice, but all she said was, well, to tell the truth. She still seemed to be at a loss for words. If you keep mumbling like that, there's no way we're going to know what's going on, Murakami-san suddenly shouted. You know, I had my doubts, but it really does seem like you don't really know who Abiko-san is. Yes, well, to tell the truth, it's just as you say, Murakami-san. We exchanged looks. What do you mean? There's no way you wouldn't know who Abiko Takemaru is. Well... Kiyo-san returned to her old nervous way of speaking. The master told me not to mention it, but... After these shocking incidents, I feel as if I have no choice but to mention it. Kiyo-san gradually started to open up. My family has connections to the Kishizaru clan. They're distant connections, but connections nevertheless. After the Kishizaru clan fell into ruin, I've been left in charge of the facilities on this island. A short while ago, a real estate agent came to me with a request from a person called Abiko Takemaru. And the request was to purchase the facilities on the island. And immediately after that, there was a phone call directly from this Abiko-san. He mentioned that the rights to this mansion had passed to him, and, as it always had been, I was to be left in charge of keeping order at the mansion, and that I would get a monthly salary paid directly into my bank account. Are you trying to tell us that you've never met Abiko-san? Murakami-san crossed his arms. That's correct. I couldn't believe what she was talking about. Around a week ago, I received a phone call from Abiko-san saying that he'd invited quite a few guests to the island and that I ought to prepare for them. And then, just yesterday, I received a contact that he'd be running late and that I would need to look after the guests by myself. Of course, it was planned that he would be here first. And not to mention that yesterday was... Kiyo-san hesitated and drew a breath. Well, yesterday was the night of the Kamaitachi. But it seems as if Abiko-san wasn't aware of this. And in any case, no matter how much I tried to explain the night of the Kamaitachi to him over the phone, he seemed not to understand. I felt it was easy to believe that such a strange weather phenomenon would be hard for foreigners to the island to understand. I told him that the seas would be rough and that the island would be closed off and that the guests wouldn't be able to make it back to the mainland. Not to mention that he didn't arrive on the last boat. I didn't really know what to make of the situation. He told me to look after you all, but there's only so much I can do by myself. She suddenly stopped speaking and looked up. It is certain that the owner, my supervisor, is Abiko Takemaru, but I have never once seen his face. Not to mention, he's never shown his face on this island ever before. Kiyo-san's voice shrunk. I'm not sure I can believe it myself. He's never explained to me why, or... I've never really understood what exactly he's been thinking. But if you talk to him over the phone, then at least you know whether it's a man or a woman, right? Murakami-san said. It was a man that I spoke to. I could tell by the voice. Would you say maybe it was the kind of voice that a woman could perform? Kobayashi-san asked. Well, I guess if you were to mention... Although the name is Takemaru, which is a man's name. Well, maybe that's just a pen name or something. Why, there's a lot of female writers that use male names for their works, Mikimoto-san said. I suppose that's true. Well, having said that, I suppose maybe it was a kind of a neutral voice. It's just that I was so certain that it was a man from the beginning that maybe I made myself believe that. Kiyo-san continued in a smaller voice. I'm not sure. It might have been a woman. I remembered back to what Masaoka-san had said about talking to Abiko on the phone as well, and that he'd said it was a man. But maybe he also got the idea that it was a man just from the name. Who was this Abiko Takemaru a man? And did that mean that Midori-san was not the killer? If that was the case, why the manicure bottle? Is there any way to exclude Mari, Kaneko-san, and Keiko-san for being the culprit? Okay, here we have to kind of do a bit of deduction work, because we have 3 choices, and I feel like it's a pretty big choice. It's like the first choice is like, I've got it, like I know who it is. Second choice is I don't know who it is, and third choice is I wonder if there's a hint somewhere. So here's what I'm thinking. I mean, there's still a lot of unanswered questions, but I don't know. I mean, I get at the moment our only sort of semi-concrete evidence is this bottle, this manicure bottle. I guess that's nail polish, maybe. That this kind of green nail polish, which is technically Midori's, but I mean that, like, you know, it's an easy frame. Like, it's, you know, I kind of don't really see Midori-san as the killer, so I think, you know, whoever is the killer is either trying to frame Midori or just trying to create confusion. But I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of hard to base that. But still, I get kind of hung up on this whole thing about Mikimoto-san, like really wanting to bring that evidence to light, like, which to me, like the kind of the most plausible kind of line of thinking is that, like, Mikimoto-san is the culprit, maybe, because if nothing else, because like of that, because of like, you know, he really wants that bottle to be found. You know, like, it's kind of, yeah, there's something about that seemed off to me. And then I don't know, just, yeah. It's like, I think, like, in the first Kamaitachi Yoru, he was the culprit as well, which is kind of weird to have it the same person at the same time, you know, in the sequel as well. But I don't know. So this, to me, I'm swaying most towards Mikimoto-san. But then you've got the whole thing about, like, this missing third character, the Kawamura Aki character, because of the whole dinner scene. And I guess, like, you know, that's like maybe closer to people like Keiko and Kanako, you know, maybe there is such a person as this Kawamura Aki, and she, I don't know, met an untimely end because of the first Kamaitachi Yoru or something. So maybe the two of them are getting revenge on behalf of her, maybe, which I guess would maybe explain Kanako's earring in Masako-san's room. and that like the fact that Kanako like knows that nail polish bottle belongs to Midori. So maybe like it's like, how can we frame Midori? We just have to you know, make that bottle be discovered, kind of thing. You know. Now that I think about it, maybe that's kind of like an interesting like, you know, line of reasoning, maybe. I don't know, but then again, it's really hard to know which direction it's going to turn. Should we maybe let's see if there's a hint. We'll go see here, maybe. Otherwise, I could like, I don't know, say, because I think maybe if you say like I got it, then maybe we'll get like it'll kind of go into a scene where like we have to input the name of who we think the culprit is or something. But I don't know, I feel like it's sort of going to branch off a bit here. So let's go see and see what happens down this path. I wondered whether there was some kind of hint somewhere. I thought back upon everything that had happened thus far. Okay. Oh, okay, wow. So, starting with the incident that happened yesterday is choice A. Choice B is when Masaoka-san was killed, at the time of Masaoka-san's murder. Choice C is during the investigation in the mansion. D is Natsumi-san before and after Natsumi-san was killed. And E is I finished looking for hints. So maybe we'll get the opportunity to kind of go through all of these. We'll have a look. Start with A, maybe. Whoa, what is this? Aha, this is cool. So this is like, it's sort of like a little sort of summary of like key events that happened. There's like, it's weird, there's like two squares that I can't select that make up this kind of, this collection of screens. Huh? Yeah, so I guess maybe we don't have all the information, which is interesting. I think is it like in this order from left to right, maybe? So first we have the story of the children's song that has been passed down on the island. So this key bit of information, Kobayashi-san, Toshio-san, and Midori-san all did not receive invites. Huh. Right. Kanako and Keiko did not know who Kawamura Aki was. Nobody that was invited to the mansion knew who Abiko Takamura was, or had never seen Abiko Takamura. Mikimoto-san was the only person that arrived late to the island. During dinner, we heard a message from Abiko. Beneath the table, an electrical cord had been removed. The power cord had been removed from its socket. So that was the blackout. After the meal, the room designations were decided upon. We found out that Masaoka-san had claustrophobia. And Mikimoto-san and Masaoka-san had an argument in the waiting room. Right. Okay. So we can select these. What happens when we select them? What is it? Is it going to just warp us back to... so we have a line of dialogue from Keiko saying, neither of us had never heard of this Kawamura Aki person. Kobayashi-san says, why would Abiko write a person like that, a fictional person like that, into the game? And Midori-san says, This Kawamoto Aki, it's got nothing to do with anything. It's just a made-up story. There's no use thinking about it seriously. Huh. It's like, oh man, I don't know what we should be taking note of and what is just like complete red herrings. It's kind of, looking at that, it's sort of weird that like Midori-san really wants to divert attention away from Aki. I don't know. Here's the invitational one. Here Kobayashi-san says, why didn't I get an invitation? It was my guest house that was featured in the first Kamaitachi no Yoru in any case. And yeah, I think it's saying the same thing. Yeah, that's just, I mean, it's the same dialogue as before, but it's just like talking about how like Kobayashi-san didn't get an invite but he came anyway, and Kiyo-san says, I'm sure Abiko-san won't mind. And then here Kobayashi-san says, me and my wife didn't get invites. Don't you think that's rude? And Toshio-san says, well, to tell you the truth, we didn't get invites either. It seems like the only people that were invited were the guests of the guest house, and everyone that worked at the guest house was left out of the invitations. Yeah, I don't know. So I mean, well, potentially you could say that maybe the person that's behind all this was like a staff member at the guest house from the first Kamaitachi no Yoru. So that would leave like Midori-san, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. Alright, so that just kind of goes over like past dialogue and that kind of thing. I think this is all just to help you like make your deductions and that kind of thing, and just sort of reassess your knowledge and that kind of thing. So we got another screen for when Masako-san was killed. Looks like we have all the information for this bit. Kobayashi-san came from down the corridor. Mari was fast asleep in her room. In front of the corner room, Kaneko-san's earring was on the floor. Masako-san had had his throat cut. He was dead. The rain had already finished, had already stopped. The state that Masako-san's body was found in was a match with the Warabe-uta children's song. We went around to all the rooms and woke everyone up, and we found that the murder scene was a closed room. Yeah. During the investigation of the mansion, what happened here? We investigated the first floor, the basement, second floor, and the central garden. What do we got here? Aside from Kiyo-san's room, all of the rooms on the first floor were empty. And then there was the cafeteria, the bathroom, kitchen. We searched all of the rooms, but no one was hiding. Kiyo-san showed us her room. There was only clothes and random materials. Yeah, there was nothing on the first floor. Yeah, I don't know, I feel like there wasn't much that we discovered in the investigation, I feel like, except for like, the basement was kind of weird, I guess. The water tank and the boiler was down there. And a strange little room with valves in it. But it looked like no one could hide there. Yeah, that was kind of nothing, I think. And like the second floor investigation, the storage rooms. I'm looking at the murder scene. Yeah, there's blood on the sickle. I mean, that's... I don't know. I don't think that has much to do with the actual crime itself. Like, that's just kind of like part of the, you know, staging the you know, the crime, connecting it to the legend of the weasel, the Itachi. Yeah. But yeah, the whole closed room thing is a puzzle as well. I mean, I guess. Yeah. Oh yeah, that was strange. So this is like, so Kayama-san like notices something, and like I think, does he pick it up? I think maybe, can't check. And like it's like we were like, what did you find, Kayama-san? He's like, oh, it's nothing, just a bit of rubbish. That was very suspicious. So like, huh? Maybe it's like something connected to Natsumi, and then like maybe that's why Natsumi was killed, because they kind of like they happened upon something that gave away the identity of the murderer. That's maybe plausible, but then I guess I don't know. In that weird storage room. Oh, there was like a pool of water under the window. So the window was open, I guess? Yeah. So, hang on. So, I think it was that, like... the murderer was able to, like, maybe escape from the closed room into the storage room, like across the gap. Maybe with a rope or something. I feel like that was hinted at in the story. It was like maybe that they went out through the window and kind of climbed across into the storage room. So the window being open means that like water would have come in from the rain, and then it was closed. But like, yeah, it said like the rain had stopped by the time, well, it's like for every kind of like line of reasoning that you have, there's like something that sort of negates it. There's like the thing that kind of like makes it difficult with the pool of water and the whole kind of like the time of the murder and that kind of thing. Like, when was the murder committed? Because if it was committed at the time, if it was committed like just before the body was discovered, then that would mean that like things like, you know, water underneath the window would kind of be, you know, because the rain had already stopped. So maybe that pool of water under the window is telling us that like the murder took place like quite a while before we heard the scream. So then the scream, I feel like, just kind of thinking about it, the scream was definitely male, you know? I wonder if it's anything like that back when Masako-san was killed. It was like this scene, I think, wasn't it? Kobayashi-san comes through the corridor. Yeah. It's definitely a man's scream. So I don't know if if that's not Masako-san screaming, so like if he's killed then yeah, I guess that's his scream. But like maybe that's like the kind of murderer just sort of putting on, you know, like misleading you know, people, which would mean that like Kawaii-san and Toru like have alibis, I guess. So I feel like maybe that's plausible. That like, you know, the killer kind of like killed Masako-san like rather earlier, and you know, escaped through the window to the storage room, closed the window, and then you know, went back to their room and waited until someone woke up, maybe, and then gave out a scream. So, given that the scream is male, then, you know, I guess maybe Mikimoto-san is maybe the most likely culprit. Around the time that Natsumi was killed, Kanako-san got angry during breakfast. Mikimoto-san was at the harbour. Natsumi-san's corpse and the connection with the children's song. The first person to discover the body was Kobayashi-san by himself. We heard about the night of the Kamaitachi from 100 years ago. Natsumi-san had been holding this nail polish in her hand, and Midori-san's nail polish was gone. Kanako-san and Keiko-san returned to their rooms, and Kiyo-san did not know who Abiko Takamoto was. So that's all we have. That's all the knowledge we have. So we gotta... yeah... they're all the hints, I guess. Well, what should we do? Maybe let's try naming the culprit. Alright. Oh god. So I really feel like maybe Kanako is potentially the killer. Kanako or Mikimoto-san. Also, like this Keiko-san character has barely been in the story, which is, I guess that's kind of suspicious. She's the person that has the least coverage. I feel like I just don't know what was going on with her. You know, that she wasn't anywhere. I feel like I don't know whether that's suspicious or not. Okay, well let's see if we can deduce something. I got it. That's it. That's what happened. What do you mean? What happened? Asked Mari. I said to everyone, Abiko Takemaru is... Okay, so here we've got a lot of decisions. We can say Abiko Takemaru has yet to arrive on the island. Duh. Abiko Takemaru is with us in the mansion. He's hiding in the mansion, even now. C is, he's most likely one of us. Or he's already left the island. Gosh, well I guess he's one of us, probably, don't you think? Kind of seemed like the vibe, especially with that kind of tape that he played over dinner. He said that, like, I can't show my face, but I am with you all. So I think it's one of us. Like, you know, it could be Kiyo-san. I feel like this Abiko Takemaru like also could be Kiyo-san. Yeah, that's entirely possible. So maybe we'll see here. I presume that this Abiko Takemaru person is one of us. Inside my mind, a range of various factors started to come together to form a great big image. But Kiyo-san says that Abiko Takemaru is different to the people that are here. It's a different person. I ignored Mari and continued speaking. Cast your minds back, please. During dinner yesterday, we heard Abiko Takemaru's voice, right? But he wasn't in the room with us. We couldn't see him. Due to that, we got the impression of Abiko Takemaru as kind of an invisible existence. However, there is no way that someone who is not present in that room could have spoken to us and put things like a photo and a toy car on the table. So that only leaves us with the conclusion that Abiko Takemaru is one of us. One of us. Alright, just get the preamble over and done with. Just tell us exactly who Abiko is. Murakami-san pressed me on. Abiko Takemaru, the person who invited us to this mansion and who murdered Masaoka-san and Natsumi-san, is... Okay, so then we have to choose now. Oh man. Well, you can also choose one of the victims. Oh wow, Kiyo-san's last name is Hishida, which is interesting. Oh boy. What do you reckon? Kanako? Or Mikimoto-san? Oh, I really don't know. I don't have any strong conviction either way. I mean, yeah. Midori. Midori is also plausible, I feel like. If it's Midori, then let's see if we can kind of find a reason why it wouldn't be Midori. Because we would have to assume that that whole nail polish thing was is like real evidence, is like a mistake on her part. Then with Masaoka-san, yeah, I mean, she was in a room with Toshio. Oh no, hang on, were they together? I can't remember how. I can't remember whether, because I remember there was a bit of dialogue about how like Toshio and Midori wanted to be together, but they separated the women and the men. Oh, and there was that whole thing about like they swapped rooms. That happened, didn't it? Like Midori and Masaoka-san swapped rooms. So then there's that whole thing about like how like maybe Masaoka-san wasn't the one that was meant to be murdered. Maybe it was Midori that was meant to be murdered. Which just, oh man, that makes it even more complicated. So, jeez. Because it was Masaoka-san that asked to change rooms, I think, maybe? Yeah, because he was next door to Midori. So she was in the room that Masaoka-san was murdered in, and they swapped. I think that's right. So if they didn't swap, Midori would have been murdered, I guess. Because I guess, I mean, I'm thinking that like the murder could have only taken place in that room because it's a closed room. You know, I feel like that's a big part of it. Closed room, but obviously there's an escape. There's like a way to make it work. So in which case, like it would have been Midori and Natsumi that were murdered. But I don't know, I didn't get the connection between those two. Oh man. Yeah, I don't know, I feel like maybe we just need more information. There's probably like... Yeah. It's hard to know though. I feel like there's a lot of guesswork you have to do. So... Oh boy, what do we do? Should we just go with Mikazukijima? Or Kanako? I cannot make up my mind. Okay, Kanako, let's do it. What the heck? This Abiko Takemaru, who invited us to this mansion and killed Masaoka-san and Natsumi-san, is none other than Kanako. Everyone drew a breath. Why would Kanako be Abiko? Mari asked. There is a big factual bit of information that I just realized, and that is the photo of Kawamura Aki. And what exactly about that photo? In this game, Kamaitachi no Yoru, Kanako-san, Keiko-san, and a third person called Kawamura Aki are a group of 3 office ladies. Or that's how they were depicted in the game. Yeah, and... However, Kanako-san and Keiko-san mentioned that they did not know anyone by the name of Kawamura Aki. And as such, we thought that this Kawamura Aki was a totally fictional person. Of course, the photo, Kobayashi-san suddenly said. That's correct. The photo that was on the table in the dining hall proves that Kawamura Aki was a real person that existed. Which means that Kanako-san and Keiko-san, what they said raises a bit of suspicion. Murakami-san let out a small growl and then looked up onto the second floor. And that's when I realized maybe this Abiko Takemaru is the pen name of Kitano Keiko, Watase Kanako, and Kawamura Aki. These 3. It's not all that uncommon that a group of people together use the same pen name. But why would just the 2 of them come to the island? Well, that's simple. Maybe they're getting paid. Or something like that. Kawamura Aki was murdered. Kawamura Aki was murdered? This kind of serial killer game that Abiko-san is playing started before we came to this mansion. And the first victim wasn't Masaoka-san, but Kawamura Aki. You must be joking. Those 2, I'm sure those 2 planned to kill every one of us that has something to do with that game. And they used that photo to let us know that we're going to meet the same fate as Kawamura Aki. I can't believe it. They look as if they wouldn't have to fly. Murakami-san had a spiteful tone of voice as he spoke. Eventually, Mari started to speak. I don't know, I can't picture them as this Abiko person. Look, there's no time to be smart. We need to do something before we're killed. But that photo was put at a place that was kind of far removed from where they were sitting. How could they have put the photo that far away? Well, basically. Yeah, basically. Maybe it's some kind of, I don't know, a trick or something? You know, Toru, you've got this real problem with talking without thinking first. Really? Yeah, you really do. You know, I thought you really had something to share with us, but it turns out that maybe you really don't. She looked like she was really annoyed with me. You know, it's really bad to accuse someone of a murder without sufficient evidence. She was right. I felt too embarrassed to go on. This is ridiculous. Murakami-san stood up. I'm going back to my room. Nobody's got anything plausible to share in any case. I felt like everyone else shared the same point of view. They just weren't saying it. So we all decided to leave the waiting room. Climbing up to the second floor felt longer than it usually does. Mari reached out her hand towards me. I grabbed her hand. Usually when something like this happened, I'd be filled with a sense of happiness, but there was something different. Mari's hand was cold. I felt her fear pulse through her hand. I felt my own fear grow worse. And then... And then I felt as if the owner of this hand that was shaking gently in mine could never have been a serial killer. It proved that she wasn't. What am I thinking? I chased out the suspicions of Mari as a killer out from inside of my mind. You should lock your door from inside. There's no telling what's going to happen. Yeah, you're right. Mari looked downward for a while, and then suddenly looked up at me with wet eyes. Do you mind if I come to your room? Being in this room reminds me of being next to Masaoka-san's room. I feel like maybe I might hear his voice. I'd completely forgotten that Mari's room was right next to Masaoka-san's room. There's no way that anyone would want to be left alone in a room next to a dead body. Of course, I said. We sat down on the bed and drew closer together. I started to think about how wonderful it would be if there was some guest room at a hotel downtown. But instead, here we were, in a room in a dark mansion, floating on an island in the sea, a solitary island that reeked of the smell of death. Masaoka-san, whose throat had been cut, and Natsumi-san, whose wrists had been cut and strangled with a scarf. The images of their dead bodies started to float around in my mind. Toru, Mari whispered. What is it? I need you to believe me. I felt like Mari could see right into my heart, and I felt my face grow red. I felt embarrassed at myself, who had at one point held Mari with suspicion. I felt like maybe my suspicions had conveyed themselves to Mari at some point. So maybe she felt a bit uneasy about the whole thing. I believe you, I said, and grabbed her hand. Midday, 16th of August. It was 12. I convinced Mari to come with me to the dining hall. To tell the truth, I didn't have an appetite, and neither did she. But we couldn't just not eat. Just to be safe, before leaving the room, we armed ourselves with things that we could use as weapons. I found a small paper knife from inside my bag. Who knows, perhaps this knife could have served as an important weapon. I thrust the knife into my pocket and left the room. The dark, dimly lit dining hall felt darker than it usually does. Murakami-san, Kobayashi-san, and Mikimoto-san were sitting at the table. On top of the table, there were soup dishes laid out, and they were filled with a pumpkin potage. After a short while, Toshio-san and Midori-san entered the room. You guys have got a lot of guts, Murakami-san said. Midori-san's innocent, you know. There's no reason why we shouldn't show our faces around here. We've come to eat. Is there something wrong with that? Toshio-san said. And Murakami-san looked away. Shortly after, the two office ladies arrived as well. They sat down in their seats, making efforts not to look at anyone else. Kayama-san didn't come. I wondered whether he was still with Natsumi-san in that small, empty room. Nobody spoke. Nobody looked at each other. We just sipped at our yellow-coloured soup in silence. The soup was delicious. Looking over at Kobayashi-san, he kept tilting his head, as if enjoying the taste of the soup. "10 minutes and then 15 minutes passed. That's weird. Is lunch just soup? Was that it?" Mikimoto-san said, somewhat confused. "Just what is that old woman doing? Is she trying to starve us to death?" Murakami-san punched the table with his fist. "Yeah, there's something weird about this. We've been waiting here for 20 minutes. Should I go and have a look?" Kobayashi-san stood up. Kobayashi-san went to stand up, but it was Mikimoto-san that stood. "I'll go. I'll go with you. I don't think that there's anyone that should be moving around this mansion by themselves." "Alright, we'll go too," I said, and Muddy and I stood up as well. The four of us ended up going to the kitchen, but we couldn't see Kiyo-san anywhere. We went to go look elsewhere in the mansion, but as we were walking down the corridor, we saw Toshio-san, Midori-san, Keiko-san, and Kaneko-san, and together with them, Murakami-san, walking towards us down the hallway. I have my doubts, but they do say what happens twice often happens 3 times. So we all decided to look for her together as a group. Murakami-san had a strange way of words. Everyone had a kind of sour look on their face. I didn't want anything else to happen. That'll do just fine. But maybe there should be 2 to a group. I paired up with Mari, and then we grouped everyone else together at random. Mari and I went to the west wing of the 2nd floor. And Mikimoto-san and Murakami-san together went to the east wing of the 2nd floor. Toshio-san and Midori-san went to the bathroom and the waiting room, and Kobayashi-san and the 2 office ladies went in the area of the kitchen. All the groups split up thus, and we continued our search throughout the building. Maybe Kiyo-san is the next victim. 10 minutes later, we all regrouped in the kitchen. None of us could find where Kiyo-san was. "Maybe she left the building," Kobayashi-san said. "In the middle of lunch? Don't be ridiculous," Mikimoto-san said. "But it's weird, don't you think? There's no... The next course isn't in the kitchen either. Nothing that's finished and nothing that's halfway through being cooked." Kobayashi-san, out of all of us, was the most learned in cooking. He was right. Everything in the kitchen had been cleaned up, and there was no food in the middle of being prepared anywhere to be seen. There was no 2 ways about it. It seemed as if Kiyo-san had no intention of providing any more food. We decided to take a more careful look around the kitchen. Here we can search We can try opening the fridge or looking in the trash can. Fridge, I guess. I tried opening the fridge. In the freezer, there were frozen meals. Kind of over-the-counter frozen meals. Crammed inside. I tried opening a couple of them, but they were all just frozen meals. The type of which that you would warm up in a microwave. They were piled one on top of the other. I know what's going on here, Koya-san suddenly said. I knew something was off. The food that we've been eating since yesterday, it's all just pre-made food. Everyone looked at Kobayashi-san. I mean, it doesn't taste bad or anything. It tastes good, but it's the kind of flavor that sort of, you know, tries to get on your good side. So I had an inkling. You know, this kind of frozen food that you buy at the supermarket, it's got too much flavor. The flavor's too heavy for normal cooking. That's because it's full of flavoring and coloring, you know? So the more you eat of it, the less delicious it becomes. Kobayashi-san was obviously the cook amongst us. And then I realized why he had been tilting his head earlier during the meal. All I could think was that it was a delicious meal, so I felt a little embarrassed. Why on earth was Kiyo-san doing something like this? I said. Well, I'm sure it's pretty difficult to make a whole lot of food all by oneself. But even having said that, Kobayashi-san, who had been eyeing the frozen meals carefully, suddenly stopped what he was saying, and his expression changed. It didn't matter trying to get him to continue speaking. All he would do was scrunch his eyebrows and tilt his head. Well, if it's the case, then I guess we don't need Kiyo-san to make any food. We just need to put it in the microwave, Keiko-san said, looking at all the frozen pizzas in the fridge. Huh? There's no ice, Mikimoto-san said. Ice? Why is that weird? I asked. And Mikimoto-san pointed at the huge electric ice machine. This ice machine was filled to the brim with ice just yesterday. If what Mikimoto-san was saying was true, then there ought to be a week's worth of ice in this enormous bucket. It had almost entirely disappeared. I couldn't think of a reason why. Well, when all's said and done, just putting out soup and then disappearing is pretty strange. Maybe this could mean... What if this means... Murakami-san spoke in a low voice. Now, don't say anything weird. Everyone's just a little bit highly strung right now, Toshio-san said. There's every possibility that she could have returned to the dining hall while we're standing in here. Why don't we go back? Everyone agreed, and we returned to the dining hall. I knew something was off the moment we entered the room. The atmosphere that pervaded the room was different from when we had left moments earlier. I felt an awful kind of creeping feeling on my skin. I looked around and then found the reason for my ill feeling. There it was again. On the table was a framed photo. And in that photo was a young woman with the name Kawamura-aki, who was smiling gently. Ladies and gentlemen, we heard a voice. It was the same voice that we'd heard in this room yesterday. It was kind of a cloudy voice, a genderless voice. No way of knowing whether it was masculine or feminine. The voice of Abiko Takemaru. I will not forgive the murderer that took the life of Kawamura-aki. There is no way I will forgive. No way. Those with ears ought to listen. Those with eyes... those with ears must listen to the truth. Those with eyes must see the truth. Those with noses must sniff out the truth. Those with hands must grasp at the truth. Those with feet must stand on the truth. I think that this is a bit of a Japanese kind of nuance. Stand on the truth. Those with hearts must think of the truth. I am Abiko Takemaru. And that name is the name of the god that protects the generations of the Kishizaru clan. And the god of the being that presides over this island. The wind, the waves, storms, and the whirlpools. The god of our ancestors. Listen, sinners, with blood-stained hands from the murder of Kawamura-aki. I know your names. Heed my warning. Your sins are deeper than the oceans. Heed my warning. Heed my warning, sinners. Everyone listened to the photo tell its story. Nobody moved. Toru. Marty whispered in my ear. I knew. I walked forward and hit the photo with my hand. This is Abiko Takemaru. I showed everyone the tape recorder on the table. Who put it here? I was in the kitchen. I think everyone was. Everybody flew into a chaos. What's he saying about a god? It's all just ridiculous, right? It's all make-believe. This is the work of a human, right? Mikimoto-san sounded overly suspicious.